Hello, Christopher. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Russell. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I know you're going to talk mostly about LARSN in this this YouTube conversation, but I thought I might begin, if that's all right, by asking you how you got interested in the field of ecclesiastical law.
Yeah, well, the answer to that is when I was studying my undergraduate degree at Newcastle University back in 2003 to 2006, David Hart was teaching ecclesiastical law as an undergraduate subject. And he, of course, is well known to readers of the Ecclesiastical Law Journal because of his work as the book review editor. And he really got me interested in the subject. And when I graduated, he said to me, if you want to pursue studies in ecclesiastical and canon law, I thoroughly recommend you go and undertake the master's course at Cardiff. Well, of course, time went on and other commitments came about, and I didn't do it straight away. But fast forward to sort of 2017, I eventually got round to signing up to the master's course at Cardiff. And of course, that's where I met Norman Doe, among others. And once you meet him and you see his passion for all things law and religion, it's very difficult not to sort of get infected by that desire for the subject. And he indeed is the one that introduced me to the Centre for Law and Religion and LARSN as a result.
Absolutely. Well, I completely empathise with what you say about the infectious enthusiasm from Norman especially. So the Centre for Law and Religion, you mentioned, is at Cardiff University. And if I'm right, there are 4 networks connected with the centre: the Colloquium of Anglican and Roman Catholic Canon Lawyers, the new one about to launch, Church Legal Historians. There's the Interfaith Legal Advisors Network, and then the network that you convene, Christopher, the Law and Religion Scholars Network, which is this mysterious acronym LARSN. That's what it stands for, isn't it? Law and Religion Scholars Network.
That's right.
So what exactly is that, is LARSN, and how did it begin?
Well, I mean, I only got involved with it fairly recently, back in 2020, but it was established back in 2008. And as you've alluded to, was an initiative that was led by the Centre for Law and Religion at Cardiff University. And essentially, I think if one were to try and summarize it in a nutshell, it was designed to be a forum for discussion among legal practitioners and academics on a whole array of subjects where law and religion interact, certainly not just in the United Kingdom, but worldwide.
Great. And so that's a hugely broad purpose. What does LARSN actually do from year to year to fulfill those goals?
So from a practical perspective, although it has a fairly good membership, there are about 300 people who are members, and we have a email network where we will, throughout the course of the year, disseminate information such as publications, events of interest among the membership. The real key part of LARSN, I think, is that once a year we hold an annual conference. Historically, of course, it's been done in person, but for the last year, it's been done online for obvious reasons, whereby we invite the membership to submit articles and papers for discussion. And that's something that historically has proven to be very successful, and was a great success actually earlier this year when we held the conference online.
Great, and it really does bring in a huge range of scholars from different all sorts of different disciplines that are involved in the interaction of law and religion, doesn't it?
And that's what's particularly fascinating about the membership, because as I said before, it's not just limited to members within the UK, it's a worldwide membership. And of course, the topics that interest them vary substantially from place to place. And I was just reviewing actually the program that we'd had recently prior to meeting you, and just by looking at that, one can see the diverse nature of not only speakers but also the topics that they were discussing. And I mean, during a one-day conference, we discussed so many different issues, from matters relating to ecclesiastical history, the establishment and disestablishment of churches, to matters relating to discrimination, abortion, medical ethics. Really a whole array of topics were discussed during the course of that one-day conference.
Absolutely. And some of those areas that you mentioned, I suppose, like discrimination, religious equality, freedom of religion, and so on, and some of those areas especially have absolutely boomed in recent years, haven't they, in the amount of scholarly interest and debate on those topics. Yes,
I mean, if you take England and Wales just as an example, I think with the advent and the progression of equality legislation, what we've seen, of course, is a desire to protect people's rights and ensure that they're not discriminated against. But as the case law reveals, there are constant clashes between, in particular, the right to freedom of religion on the one hand, and then the various other rights that are protected. And a lot of people that talk at LARSN, whether at the conference or by submitting articles during the course of the year, do focus on those sorts of issues because they are so topical. And of course, they affect people day to day.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's just a real sort of taste you've given of the sort of topics that are covered by the huge breadth of LARSN scholars. If there are those watching this YouTube video, scholars working in the field who aren't members, do you want to say anything about how they can find out more or consider joining?
Yes, well, I mean, we've recently been reviewing what the aims and the mission of LARSN is, and we've identified that one of the things that we would really like to do going forward is to facilitate the expansion and diversification of the membership of LARSN by encouraging new members, particularly members who are perhaps new to the field of academia and would like to broaden their network. And what we would encourage people to do in the first instance is check out the Centre for Law and Religion's website, because that has information on it in relation to LARSN and how you can go about contacting us. I should say that the website is in the process of being updated. So if you visit it today, for example, it might look a little bit outdated, but we are in the process of rejuvenating it. But that's the place to go in the first instance. And of course, as the convener, I'm always very welcome for people to reach out to me directly if they have any queries about LARSN.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put a link in the notes under this YouTube video to the webpage that you mentioned. And also, from what you're saying, it's not just people who are perhaps well-established, tenured university professors in the field that are welcome to get involved in LARSN. As you're saying, you're particularly interested in those new to the field.
Yes, and I think it's a really important point to re-emphasize, because I do think that sometimes perhaps new scholars or people who are maybe just going into postgraduate education are sometimes a bit nervous about joining people who are much more established in the field. And what we're trying to say through LARSN is actually what we welcome is the breadth of experience across the board. And so please don't feel in any way inhibited about putting your name forward. You don't have to, of course, jump in by submitting papers, but I think just being part of the network will help you.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, I as someone who's only just started my own PhD, so very early on in that sense in research, I've already myself found that the contacts, the fellowship, and and of course the conferences of LARSN have been incredibly helpful. So I underline what you say, Christopher, to those watching very early stages of an academic career, that it's certainly well worth looking at more deeply into LARSN and joining and taking part. Well, thank you so much. I mean, we've only skimmed the surface, really, haven't we, of what we could talk about? But hopefully, those watching will follow the link and find out more, and perhaps be in touch with you, or we may see them at a LARSN conference soon.
Yes, that would be great. We're already beginning to work on what we will do next year. Hopefully, all being well, it will be an in-person conference, and that's something that we can all look forward to.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Christopher, and see you soon.
Thank you, Russell.